You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Let's play a little game of Would You Rather, School Counselor Edition. Okay, would you rather spend your weekend planning a group or spend your afternoon sitting in irrelevant PD? Yikes. Or would you rather be the only counselor with no one to collaborate with, or to spend hours searching online for engaging activities? All of these options are pretty bad, right? But unfortunately, they're all too real. But what if I told you I had a solution for you? What if I told you I had access to hundreds of school counseling lessons, groups, and activities, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most, and a community of like-minded school counselors to support you? You would say, yes, please. Well, that is what Impact is all about. Impact is my monthly membership for school counselors, and it helps you with all of these things. You get access to hundreds of resources. That's unlimited free downloads. Log in and get what you need right away to every single resource that's in my store. We add new resources each and every month. We're adding a new middle school and elementary resource each month, and some of these are bonus Impact exclusives, meaning that you can get resources just for members. You can request resources that you need and easily search so you can find exactly what you're looking for. And let's talk about the trainings, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most. We do these each and every month as part of our Coffee with the Counselor series. Impact members get to join for absolutely free. You earn PD certificates and you get exclusive access to members-only things like the Ultimate Small Group Experience and our Summer Summit Conference. And the community. Y'all, this is possibly my favorite part of Impact. I so look forward to jumping on these calls, to getting to know counselors who are similar to me and also completely different. It's so fun to hear from your experiences and your challenges, and everyone brings a unique perspective to the table. We have an exclusive online community, and we even have a cool app where you can chat with other counselors in these community circles. We have our monthly calls, like I mentioned, twice a month, and we share wins, troubleshoot tough cases, and just talk about what it's like to be a counselor, because so often we're on our own island at our school sites. So if any of that sounds like it's for you, I would love to see you inside Impact. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to solve all of your counselor problems. And I have a special offer for my listeners. Use code POD at checkout to save 10% off your first month. Okay, let's go to today's episode. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So as you know, this month on the podcast, we are talking all about data. We've talked about collecting it in all three tiers: class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions. And today I want to talk about a very timely topic for May, and that is creating an end of the year report. Now, if you went to my training last week, then you already got your free end of the year report template, so you are ready to rock. So this will be a perfect complement to that. If you didn't make it to the training, no worries. I'm going to help you in this episode learn why and how to create an end of the year report. And then you can always check out the template as well. We will link to it in the show notes. Okay, so I think using an end of the year report is an absolute game changer. And let me tell you a little story about my own experience with it. So it was my first year counseling, and my counselor friend and I were, we were trying to do all the things. We were just so excited. And we were on Pinterest all the time, and I saw some like end of the year reports that other people were doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do an end of the year report. This would be so cool. So I went through and we just kind of made one from scratch. I think I even did it on like Word or something. It like wasn't very pretty, but it did communicate, the number of class lessons I had done, some groups I had done, how many students I was seeing, just some good data points. I ended up sharing it with my principal, just like, hey, I did this thing if you're interested. Principal shared it with our superintendent, who then reached out to me directly and said, thank you for this. This is such a great way for counselors to share what they're doing in their counseling programs. And I was just like, oh my gosh, first year counselor getting a personal email from the superintendent made me feel so special and pumped that I did it, and so proud of what I had shared. And then they ended up making it where like they wanted all the counselors to do it. So it just became like a standard that we all did. So perhaps your school's already doing it, or perhaps it's just something kind of above and beyond you want to do. But aside from getting that, feel good pat on the back that you did something good, it's a really cool way for you to make your best decisions about the upcoming school year. So when you have all the data in one place, you can really see like, oh, this makes sense. This is the full picture. this worked well, this didn't work well. Let's do this again next year. Let's not do that again next year. So it's really cool. And if you're working with a team of counselors, I think it's even more important. You can all kind of bring your data touch points together. So let's dive in. Hopefully I've talked you into wanting to do one, because like I said, they are my favorite data collection tool, an absolute game changer. It's not really so much a data collection tool as it is like a data analysis tool. We're taking all the data we've already collected and compiling it in this end of the year report. And I truly think that you can use this to transform your counseling program, which allows you to better serve your students and to advocate for your role. So what is an end of the year report? Well, it's quite simple. It's just a report that you create at the end of the year. So like I said, May, June, whenever you're getting out of school, and it's going to show how many students you served, how many class lessons you taught, and even how much time you spent with students. Now, what to include in your end of the year report? Now, these are some must-have stats that I recommend. First, I like to include the number of students served. So this is if you have used a caseload. I love to use a caseload spreadsheet. So you can go through and you'll see, hey, who did I see this year? Obviously, the more data you've collected throughout the year, the easier your end of the year report is going to be. But if you haven't collected a lot of data or you're not that organized, no worries. You can still probably go back. It'll be like a puzzle, like a little mystery trying to figure out what you did. But then you can, begin with the end in mind, and next year prep, knowing, I'm going to want to track these things at the end of the year. Maybe I should set up a system to do that. So whether you're looking at your calendar to see which students you saw, or your small group sign-in sheets, or maybe you have a nice detailed counseling log or counseling caseload spreadsheet. Spoiler alert, I have some templates for those we can link to in the show notes in my counseling hub. But either way, you're going to track the number of students that you've served. And then you can break that down even further into individual and small groups. So how many students did you see individually? How many students did you see in small groups? And share the percentages of these, 100 students served. I saw 30 of them individually and 70 of them in small groups. Now that sounds like a lot, but 100 is just easy math for me to do right off my head. And then how much time you spent with the students. And this is awesome. This is the fun stuff. So, you're going to calculate this by figuring out the average minutes per session over how many weeks that you saw them. So if you're meeting your small groups for 30 minutes and you're doing it over 5 weeks, then you would have 2.5 hours of small groups. And you can break that down into the minutes to say exactly how many minutes that you spent with your small group students. Or you can add this up to your total number of students. And this is great because you can then, by showing how much time you spent in direct student services, you're communicating how much time you spent in indirect student services. Now that is exciting data, because that's where you can advocate, hey, please stop making me do all these other duties and testing coordinator and clubs and other things I don't want to do, because look how little time I'm spending with students. Or you can say, wow, look how much time I spent with students. I have some time to help out in these areas. But it's really, really powerful data to share with your admin, because they're probably wondering, how is she spending her time? And now you can show them. I also like to include the class lesson topics that you covered and how frequently you taught them. So how often were you going in classrooms? Were you going once a month? Were you going twice a month? What lesson topics were you covering? This is just such good information to share. Some of you I know work really closely with your principals, and they may know all of this already. Like, I know that she's teaching responsibility in October, but some of them might not know. You might be like a little lone wolf, and this is your way to communicate and advocate. Any school-wide activities that you hosted or implemented. So if you did like a career fair, or I know someone was saying they did like a touch a truck thing, kind of like a career fair. Let's say that you did like a fun run to raise awareness on something, or a fundraiser, or you organized like a bullying prevention initiative, anything like that you want to put in there. Any professional development that you attended, conferences or trainings that you attended or presented at, I love to put that info in there. And the hours. You can say how many hours you spent at trainings. And I love to always include, this can be PD that you're doing on your own time. So as you know, in my Impact membership for school counselors, We do monthly PD. They do get PD every single month. And if you ever attend any of my free workshops, like the one I did last week, you get a PD certificate of attendance. So, add those up and put those in there. All of it's so powerful, and it's showing that you care about your students and you care about their profession and you're trying to grow professionally. I love to include any meetings that you attended. Oh, this one can be a little cringe. How many hours did you spend in IEP meetings, SST meetings, planning meetings, unnecessary meetings? All of that is so good to include. Now you're probably thinking, okay, where am I going to get this data? So a lot of the data I referred to there was time data. Now next week's episode, I can't wait to share with you guys. I'll give you a little sneak peek. It's going to be about quantifying the sessions that you've provided and quantifying the student progress. So it's saying the difference between like tracking your time and tracking student growth. So those must-have stats that I've included so far were tracking time, basically. But now let's talk about tracking student growth. So this is where you're going to pull from those data collection sources like student self-assessments, pre and post group surveys, parent-teacher feedback, if you did behavior surveys, progress monitoring scales, any observations that you did. Those are a great data collection source. This is where you're going to include any of that. So hopefully you have summarized info of that. So for example, if you did a self-assessment for a group that you did, you can look at the pie charts to see how many students improved as a result of your group. You don't have to include all the stats. I know it's a lot, but pull some standout ones to put in your report. Like 90% of the students in my group can now name 3 self-control strategies, or 70% of students in my group parents noticed an improvement in behavior after the group. Things like that. You want to include that in your end of year report. So, like I said, I love this. It's a great way to reflect on your program's progress and feel proud of all your hard work. You know you're working hard, and I just feel like many of you are doing the work and you're doing such a great job, but you just don't know how to communicate it. So that's why I like to give you the tools to communicate it better. It helps you to interpret the data to modify your program. So maybe you're saying, wow, this didn't really work. Let's not do that again next year. Or I spent way too much time doing this, but it didn't really yield that much of a result. Let's do something different instead. It also helps you showcase the data to advocate for your role. So if they're thinking of hiring more counselors or giving you more time, or you never know, schools are always making decisions like that. And we want counselors to be top of mind. We don't want to, for so long it was like, what does that lady do? She never leaves her room. I don't even know who she is. Isn't she a guidance counselor? Like, no. We want to be very clear about what we do, and we want to use the data to advocate for our role and say, wow, look at this difference that I'm making or our program's making. And that's how you can communicate your program's effectiveness using the data. You're saying, look at the data. The numbers don't lie. We did this intervention. We went to the classes once a month, and this is what happened. Or, maybe you want to go in more times and you're trying to advocate for that. You can use this data to help you communicate. So creating an end of the year report helps you know exactly what your program needs, and it increases the value for your position, which helps you feel confident and prepared to best serve your students, which that's my passion, is helping counselors feel more confident and more prepared. And like I said, you can use it to see what's working well, what's not, and then modify it to best serve all students. So it's really a win-win for everyone. The students are benefiting, and then you as the counselor are benefiting by getting to advocate for your role. All right, I hope y'all are pumped on this. I want to see your end of the year reports. Tag me on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling. I would love to see if you do want to give me a little snapshot. If you have any questions about it, you can always reach out to me and ask those questions. I would love to help you. And if you're looking for a template, like I said, if you came to my training last week, you got one for free. If you couldn't make it, no worries, we missed you. But you can get a template at the link in the show notes. Download your own end of the year report, and then you can just customize it to fit your needs, add your school colors, all the fun things. Okay, thanks guys, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.